The Pakistani parliament elects a new prime minister. After Imran Khan loses a vote of no confidence, the opposition takes over. But what really led to the prime minister's downfall, and what's next for a country in crisis? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is Pakistan. Well, he was once tipped to become Pakistan's first prime minister to serve a full 5-year term. But after almost 4 years, this was the moment Imran Khan's leadership came to an end.
174 members have recorded their votes in favor of the resolution. Consequently, the resolution for vote of no confidence against Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, has been passed by a majority of the total membership of the National Assembly.
It was exactly what the opposition was hoping for after their first attempt to oust him was quashed by the parliament's deputy speaker. Qasim Suri said a no-confidence vote would be unconstitutional, but he was overruled by the Supreme Court. And on Sunday, the opposition celebrated Prime Minister Imran Khan's formal removal from office.
House ko mubarakbad dena chahunga.
I would like to congratulate this parliament. This will be the first time in Pakistan's history that a no-confidence vote has succeeded in ousting a prime minister. Welcome back to old Pakistan.
But while those inside parliament were rejoicing, many on the streets rallied in support of the deposed prime minister. Tens of thousands, if not more, shouted slogans demanding the charismatic cricket star turned politician return to power. Khan, who has a massive following online, took to Twitter to thank his supporters, saying this: "Thank you to all Pakistanis for their amazing outpouring of support and emotions to protest against US-backed regime change, abetted by local Mir Jafars to bring into power a coterie of pliable crooks all out on bail. Shows Pakistanis at home and abroad have emphatically rejected this." But with Khan now out, in comes a familiar family name. On Monday, the Pakistani parliament voted in Shehbaz Sharif as the next prime minister. The former Punjab chief minister became PML-N president after his brother and former prime minister, Nawaz Sharif, was found guilty of corruption and banned from public office. Here's parliament confirming the new prime minister.
Mia Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif Sahab is declared to have been elected as the Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan.
Now, this might not be the end of Khan's political career, but it certainly is a massive blow. Let's take a look at what got the now former prime minister to this point. Khan has repeatedly said he is the victim of an international conspiracy led by the United States. But many argue his management of the economy also led to his downfall. When he came to power in 2018, he did so promising to improve Pakistan's financial state and to tackle corruption. But for many, he simply failed to deliver.
Whatever happened was for the best. It had to happen because conditions in the country had become very bad. Inflation had reached a peak, and it had become difficult for the poor man to survive.
Well, joining me now to talk more about what led to Imran Khan's ouster is Khan's former finance minister, Shaukat Tarin. Thank you so much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it. Tell us now what your party's strategy actually is, because from what it appears, you want to see fresh elections as soon as possible that you think could vindicate the prime minister and all that's happened here.
Well, our strategy is very simple. That we believe that what is happening today obviously has been engineered by the foreign governments, because they did not like the stance taken by Prime Minister Imran Khan, and so they engineered this a kind of political coup, and this obviously is not in sync with the people of Pakistan thing, as demonstrated, by them yesterday. All over the country, there were huge kind of, spontaneous demonstrations So we are obviously, we feel that we like to have fresh elections. And fresh elections will obviously show the will of the people. And that obviously is what is good for democracy. So what we have done today is that we have resigned from the National Assembly, which is a parliament, and then we'll see, and we will go to the people now. It will be the people's court, and Imran Khan is obviously um,
Okay.
doing this for the last 25 years.
So you're very much ready for another election. You do not believe this is at all the end of Imran Khan as leader of Pakistan. But I have to ask you, as the former finance minister, some argue you are in large part to blame for the massive economic problems that your country is facing. Tell us what you think went wrong. In hindsight, could you have done better, at least to keep the politicians in parliament more united in a sense, rather than having such a cause to rally against Imran Khan's leadership?
I absolutely do not agree with that assumption. There is something terribly wrong with the economy. The economy grew by 5.6% last year. This is, soon after COVID, and this year we are growing at around 5%. All the indicators are is towards north. Agriculture output is record. Your large scale manufacturing 7.6%. One of the highest in recent years. I mean, our service sector is growing. The profitability of the company is the highest in many years. And so all this is propaganda, because they have their platform. They're saying inflation, and inflation, as you are in Turkey, that inflation is imported, which is the commodity super cycle.
There is a problem globally. Most are aware of that. But I mean, is there anything at all you would change or do differently as per the economy?
No, I think we have done all we could. We are going for inclusive and sustainable growth, and we are following all those things which achieve that. That means also what after of sections of our population. So we are doing what we are doing. When this super cycle goes away, you will see not only inflation will come down, the growth is strong at around 4%, 5% plus. And we will obviously, there are so many things which we have to change in this country. And the PTI government has been in power for 3.5 years.
Okay.
The mess created in the economy belongs to the other parties who have been in business for 40 years. So yes, there are so many things which we have to improve, but that certainly we are improving.
Fair enough. Final question for you. Shehbaz Sharif had said to a question once regarding Pakistan's relationship with the United States, he said that beggars can't be choosers, that like it or not, Pakistan needs U.S. support. It obviously offended a number of Pakistanis who say they don't want to be at the mercy of the United States or the IMF, for that matter. So even if it's beneficial in some senses, where do you stand? Because does Pakistan actually need U.S. help first in order to gain financial independence?
Basically, a very proud, independent country, just like you are, and we certainly will like help from everybody. We can gather, but we are not at the cost of our independence and our independent policies. If somebody wants to throw dollars at us, at least this government, which means the PTI, party, will not accept that. Yes, we want to have a friendly relationship with all the countries of the world. We would like to have good relations with all the countries of the world.
Okay.
But we certainly will not accept, the tag of beggars can't be.
Shaukat Tarin, we will have to leave it there. I'd like to thank you so much for being with us. Apologies to our viewers for the sometimes shaky connection, but thank you so much for your insight. Let's bring in 3 new voices now, and from Karachi is Faisal Subzwari, a senator with the opposition MQM party. From Lahore, Walid Iqbal is a senator from Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party. And from Karachi, Huma Baqai is a political analyst and associate professor of Social Sciences there. Thanks all so much for joining us. Faisal, let me start with you because we heard the chairman of the Pakistan People's Party there saying, quote, "Welcome back to old Pakistan." I mean, is that what we're looking at here? A return to the old order that lost the last election to an Imran Khan pitching a new Pakistan?
I think that was a figure of speech. What my leader, Dr. Khalid Siddiqui, said that instead of new or old Pakistan, we need a better Pakistan.
Okay.
But anyone with the false allegations for tyranny or blasphemy or anything. So we are very much clear that we need a better Pakistan for all Pakistanis.
Okay, Faisal, unfortunately, your connection is not great. I'm going to return to you in just a few minutes. We'll see if we can get that corrected. But I'd like to get Walid's take as well on that same statement made. What do you think it really means?
Well, it really means that, the chairman of the PPP and the other large opposition party, the PML-N, they have had, stints in power like a revolving door over a period of 30 years. Where we have seen, instances of, powerful people being involved in loot and pelf and plunder, powerful people being involved in taking of innocent lives, and basically a lack of rule of law, unexplained wealth, having very expensive assets in Europe and other countries without any money trails and things like that. And, all cases of, murder, money laundering, I mean, the man who is on the screen right now, he is himself, the charges in a case were about to be framed against him in court today, where a sum of around 14 billion rupees were routed through bank accounts of employees whose salaries are hardly 20,000 or 30,000 rupees a month. So that is the kind of Pakistan that they had left. And the new Pakistan, which they say has come to an end and is being replaced by the old Pakistan, the new Pakistan was where an effort was being made to enforce and ensure the rule of law, where the powerful and the weak are both equal in the eyes of the law.
Okay.
There were programs of social protection. There were programs of, egalitarian system of education. There were programs involving universal health insurance. Okay. So all that has been stopped in its tracks. All that has been stopped in its tracks, and we've gone back to those same regressive forces, to the plutocrats, to the oligarchs, to people who can't explain their wealth and have looted and plundered and taken the wealth of the country abroad.
Fair enough. Okay, Faisal, I'm going to try to get your response to that. Hopefully you could hear the communication there. Do go ahead. Is this a return to Pakistani oligarchy?
Well, frankly speaking, Pakistani system is not ideal. And my leader, Dr. Khalid, has guts to state it while supporting all the opposition parties that we need a Pakistan where a laborer is going to represent the laborers in the National Assembly or in the Parliament, where a peasant and a farmer is represented not by a feudal lord, but a common peasant or a farmer. Unfortunately, all the major parties have such kind of issues amongst their ranks. We had high hopes from Imran Khan. That's why we started here.
Okay.
The way economy performed in his time, it was too bad. We are answerable to our people, and certainly the economy and the governance had been.
Faisal, your connection is very poor, unfortunately. We'll try to redirect your line quickly. Let me get Huma's take on what she's heard so far. We heard, obviously, the opposition and pro-Imran Khan speaking there. What do you think the Pakistani voters actually really want? I mean, they elected Imran Khan to usher in change and kind of rid themselves of, political dynasties, and now the parliament seems to have pulled them right back. But did their kind of experiment with this new Pakistan actually fail, and the voters may have, learned a lesson so that the opposition can make this triumphant comeback?
Well, the voters gave their verdict last night. There was just a verbal call by former Prime Minister Imran Khan to come out and register their protest against whatever is happening in the country. And the turnout was not just as in his constituencies. The turnout was across Pakistan, including Quetta. And the turnout in Karachi was tremendous because I witnessed it myself. And there were these people who, without any mobilization, so to say, were out to protest and register their protest against what was happening in the country and register their support for Prime Minister Imran Khan in huge numbers. And this is when any real mobilization has not even taken place. So I think there was anger on the street.
Okay.
And this anger was not limited to one city, it was across Pakistan. And perhaps what I would like to also put in here is that this is the first time that the institutions of Pakistan are being pointed at and being party to all of this. The parliament is seen as manipulated. I'm sorry, the judiciary is being seen as compromised, and the establishment of Pakistan is seen as making it happen, and the people are angry about it. So as a political scientist, what I want to say here is that I don't know what this is, new Pakistan or is old Pakistan, but it is an extremely polarized Pakistan. And this polarization is dangerous. And that is why perhaps we should move towards elections. Stretching this on will only complicate the situation and push the country towards showdowns we can ill afford.
Understood. Huma, I just have to mention quickly, just 2 points then, because, an opposition parliamentarian I spoke to had made the point of saying that most parties can pull these kinds of numbers. If they ask their supporters to come out onto the streets, they can have these massive rallies as well. But that Imran Khan had cause to do it, and that's why you saw these huge rallies in support of his prime ministership. Second point, though, was that you talk about, interestingly, how these protesters... Hold on, one second, because I want to move on to something very important that you were saying about the protesters rejecting the institutions. And you didn't mention, actually, something a number of analysts have remarked on, that this is the first time those protesters actually publicly criticized the military as an institution as well. Yes. How much should that be of concern, especially to the opposition?
It's a source of worry for me, because it is a part of what we call hybrid war. And unfortunately, right now, you have people who are completely convinced that the military is not entirely sincere to the state. And the terminology that Imran Khan's introduced of imported government has actually resonated with the people. And you're absolutely right, anybody can pull those numbers. And I've been here long enough to see when those numbers are pulled and when the mobilization is organic. And it's self-generated. What we saw on the streets of Karachi and elsewhere, there was no mobilization. There was no government machinery used to make this happen. This happened through the will of the people. And by the way, may I also point out, it was not just in Pakistan. It happened in London. It happened in Australia. It happened in the UAE. And perhaps I think it also happened in Istanbul. So I think this entire Muslim Pakistani diaspora that is poured out to register its protest and its support for Imran Khan. And I think that is what Imran Khan's narrative was till the end. His party's sentence was that, tell me who is not against me. Everybody in this country is against me, except the people of Pakistan. And that is how he's being seen. He's being seen as a savior, where every institution and all the politicians, 13 parties, have come together to bring down this man.
Understood. The clock is very much against us. I do want to get some of Faisal's comments. Unfortunately, his connection has been bad. I think we have it resurrected. Let's try again. And Faisal, I need you to comment on those who are saying that the reason the opposition is now in power is because the military has gotten its way and is now returning Pakistan to the dynasty politics that it can better control. What do you say to them?
Well, they can say whatever they want to. But unfortunately, all the other parties had been against Mr. Imran Khan since day one. He did not have the majority. That's why he needed us. First of all, he never won the simple majority. Secondly, he is playing a dangerous game. Well, I'm not against Pakistan. No US government has asked me, no military general asked me. I saw what my constituents needed.
Faisal, so unfortunately, your connection really is problematic. I'm going to have to come back to our other panelists. We'll see if we can get something corrected again. But Walid, I mean, let me ask you, because some are saying actually Imran Khan fell out with the military because he was indeed very vocal about keeping the CIA out of Pakistan, therefore, you know, diminishing U.S. support for Pakistan and Pakistan's military. Pakistan's military likes U.S. support, even if they are sometimes duplicitous about it, especially when it comes to Afghanistan, for example. What do you say to that? Do you believe that the military really did have a disproportionate role in what happened in Parliament in the last 2 weeks?
Before I comment on that, I do want to observe two things. Number one, maybe Providence has its way of also coming to Imran Khan's aid. As you can see, Mr. Subzwari, who was going to say things that would be an expression of opposition to Imran Khan, obviously having stabbed him in the back and have crossed over to aid and support the opposition. You know, he can't even be heard on your channel. I also want the second point I want to make is what Dr. Huma Baqai said to you. I personally witnessed, I was right in the middle of it in Lahore, in a place called the Liberty Crossing or Liberty Roundabout. And I have been the president of my party in Lahore a few years back, and I have been participating in a lot of mobilizations myself. And what I witnessed yesterday myself was unparalleled, and it could not compare to any mobilization we had done as party workers. People had just come out spontaneously. People were coming out with their babies in their laps. People were coming out of their cars with their teenage children. Some of them were differently abled. They were using those, walkers with which they wanted to get aided to come out, and they wanted to go into the crowd. And I have actually not witnessed such an ocean of people at that particular venue, even when Imran Khan was with me in person on one occasion where we had done mobilization. So, and this is just one call that he gave. And imagine when he steps out in person and comes out into the open, what the people of Pakistan, what kind of overwhelming support he will get. On your question particularly, all I wish to say is that as a Pakistani citizen, as a responsible Pakistani citizen, I would always stand with the armed forces of the country. I would always salute them. I would always acknowledge and recognize the sacrifices that have been made and continue to be made in this hybrid war, in attacks that they face from suicide bombers and how they guard our frontiers. But as far as what you said, the duplicitous nature, when the army has directly gotten involved in politics or has been involved in running the country, obviously every military ruler craves some sort of legitimacy. So, obviously, a great source of that legitimacy comes from recognition from the United States, from, the US-led West and all those things. But all that Prime Minister Imran Khan, while he was Prime Minister, was trying to do was to have an independent and broad-based foreign policy where he was, he had enmity for no one, friendship with everybody, but no subservience, no promotion or allowance of any policy of enslaving the people of his country. Okay. That was a no-no. So that's what we are going back to, unfortunately.
You know what, Huma, I'm going to give you the last minute because I did see you laughing at one point. I wanted to understand exactly why, but also tell us, as an analyst, a political analyst, when you expect to actually see elections. And I imagine you believe Imran Khan will be vindicated through a popular vote.
No, we can't say that.
Okay.
All I'm saying right now that Imran Khan is riding a wave of popularity which he and his party wants to encash. So they want to go into early elections, which does not mean that he has not made mistakes and or blunders on that account. But at the same time, perception is larger than reality. And the perception right now is that he is seen as a savior where everybody is ganged up against. And the people are responding to that. The sentiment is resonating with the people. Karachi is MQM city. Faisal Subzwari represents that particular party. Yesterday, the city gave a verdict that it doesn't belong to MQM anymore. And that is what should be worrisome for all of them who are going to go into elections now. You know, this
They will pay
person,
a
Dr.
price. They will pay a price.
Yes, Dr. Maqbool had said that to Imran Khan that you have taken seats from us and we have taken the government from you. I see this making a 360 turnaround. So I would caution all these 13 parties to make sure that they know what they're doing. I think what happened last evening was a wake-up call, not just for these parties, but for all the institutions of Pakistan, because this is fragmenting the polity of Pakistan.
That will have to be the final word. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time. I'd like to thank all of my panelists so much for being with us, and our viewers, of course, for tuning in as well. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.